Today, I'm joined by Chelsea, the founder of Body Be Well Pilates, a multi-location studio owner and an educator who's on a mission to help teachers and owners finally get confident about their equipment. We talk about what most people get wrong about studio maintenance, why short-term thinking costs more in the long run, and how she's built an online platform to share the lessons she's learned the hard way. If you run a studio, or you dream of opening one, or you've got your own equipment at home, you're definitely going to want to hear today's episode. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I see you're in sunny climates. Is that right? Where are you today?
So I am actually currently in the Dominican Republic teaching Pilates mat in 86-degree weather in the beautiful beach on the sun to 16 amazing, beautiful women. So Pilates mat and a Pilates mat training. So it's been good and it's been fun. But yes.
And you have multiple locations and you have a big
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Now you really look to support studios with their equipment maintenance training. What have you noticed are some of the common issues that people are seeing with their equipment maintenance? Because I don't think there's a owner out there who doesn't acknowledge that this is an area that you buy this equipment and nobody tells you what to do with it.
Yeah. So having my 3 studios, so we just actually celebrated 16 years for my Red Hook location. And I have the 3 studios, and just being in the Pilates industry for so long, there's always things that keep popping up, like there's a need, and just trying to fill the void and make things easier. So during COVID, obviously a lot of things changed and making, other programs available. So the, industry is flooded with certification programs, and there's so many great programs all around the world that the equipment, which is how we make our money, things always happen, things always break, and people are calling in like their local handyman or their plumber or, anyone to like fix this equipment. So the way it started was during COVID. One of my employees and dear friend and now partner on this with my sister and Suzanne and myself went through the Fit Reformer program. We ended up purchasing that, and then we grew that program. So we are teaching people online. It's an 8-week program of how to maintain balanced body, grots, Pilates design, peak, stot. So any of the brands that people have. And some of the comments that we've had, it's like, oh, well, it's fine. I have an Allen wrench and a screwdriver and I just fix my own stuff. And it's not. And it's way more complicated than just having an Allen wrench and tightening a couple nuts and bolts. And there's just like, we go over, everything from what you need for your toolkit, how to invoice people, and how you're going to set yourself up for success for having a business and a side gig. And if you want to hire employees and things like that. So we go through all of that.
So more than just the equipment maintenance then, more about the whole setup of a studio.
Yeah. And just how you're going to, promote yourself and how you're going to invoice people and how you're going to estimate, make an estimate and based on time. And also you're traveling. So you're traveling with all of this stuff to people's home, their studio, and getting parts and how you do that, and working with Balanced Body and working with other companies and everything like that, just to get, on top of things and keep your equipment working. Because if you are down a reformer, that's a ton of money.
So is this training aimed at somebody who's maybe looking to set up a business being a maintenance for studios, or would studio owners also go on this course if they wanted to maintain it themselves?
Yeah, so we actually have a couple different things. So, when we created this, yes, you can have the person who wants to create their own side gig, have a business, because there isn't many of us in the Pilates industry and in the world. So, yes, we can set you up for success for having your own business. And then in addition to that, we also have had a bunch of studio owners contact us where they want us to come in and do a special workshop just for their studio. So going into their studio, showing them how to, fix everything head to toe, just like brushing up everything, cleaning everything, making sure the springs are okay, troubleshooting any issues for that studio owner and their team to do it that way just for their equipment. So if they don't want to learn, grots and Balanced Body and they just have Balanced Body, then we go in and show them how to, do it just for their studio and just for their team.
I think it's such a great point because the equipment in a lot of ways is actually quite simple, right? And so I think it can lead us to think that it is like it's just a couple of bolts to be tightened. But What are the kind of things that maybe you've experienced in your own studio as sort of typical things, or things that you're hearing from the people that you're working with that come up time and time again and could have been prevented with proper maintenance?
I think that we really don't deal with the equipment until something breaks. And then it's too late. And then it's crap. Like, what are we going to do? And then you're scrounging to fix. So I think just regular, like, if, depending on the amount of hours that you have, like in your space, like we have some studios that we will do 4 times a year. We have some studios 1 time a year and some studios two. So it's just like a car getting an oil change. So if you keep up on the equipment, then, you are more likely to be able to fix the problem before it happens. So you're switching your springs, you're, checking the ropes, you're checking the carriage, you're checking your wheels, you're doing all the things that need to be done to just keep everything working so that you don't have a catastrophe or you're out money or you're out a machine and then you have to, hustle to fix it immediately.
Because this is the thing, you take a reformer out of a studio, that's a lot of lost income. If you're in the UK like we are, you're often, I don't think it even is just in the UK. Like, you're waiting for any brand to send you a replacement spring, a replacement this, that, and the other. And therefore, you then have to be like, well, this class needs to be taken down, a capacity, I have to cancel somebody out. Like, it's a lot of impact on the business to lose a reformer or any piece of equipment, correct?
Yeah, and then just have extra springs and have extra, any of the parts just on hand. Like, so just be prepared that, if that is springs like that go, you have something that you can replace it and then it's fixed in a minute as opposed to days, weeks, who knows how long.
Well, I mean, we had a spring break a few years ago, and now I always just have spare springs in, and it's no bother, and we can just do it. But even down to like what lubricant you spray it with, where you spray, where you don't spray, like, you need to know that. And I don't personally really understand why the manufacturers haven't figured this out. Like, if they could partner with some of these people that you're training up, and we as studios could be like, I have balanced body equipment. I literally, no word of a lie, I had a conversation with Balance Body last week, and I said, I want someone to come in 4 times a year, and because we do maintenance on our equipment, but I want someone to come in and properly check it. We're running 65 classes a week at 92% capacity. Like, these are getting used, and I don't want anything to break. Or I notice sometimes as a studio owner, you go in and you're like, I'm going to have my 10 minutes. You get your 10 minutes on the reformer to play around. That's as much Pilates as we do these days. And I got on when I was like, this sounds rough. A client's not going to necessarily know it. And you couldn't even really hear it, but I could feel something was not right. And we got someone out via Balance Body, actually. But I was saying to them, I want someone to come out regularly. And they were like, oh, I think you only need this once a year. I said, no, I want this more. And it was interesting how they were saying, oh, yeah, we are trying to figure out, how we can support this, because they're sending these equipment out to these studios and it needs to run smoothly. Same with any of the brands, by the way, are the same, I think. The equipment needs to run smoothly. And you suddenly, like you said, you realize once something breaks that they're maybe not quite as straightforward as you thought.
Yeah, and just like being prepared for all of that. And also, we have been in talks, with Balance Body, because that's how I'm fully equipped Balance Body, and what can we do together to get this out there? And that's why we did the program online. It's an 8-week program. We do meet live every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just for like questions. We do bonus videos and just to be there for support. And we had one class graduate, and we also have like a WhatsApp group. So everybody, helps each other. I'm at a studio right now and I have this issue. Can you help me? So we're here all the time to help them before, during, and after. And I think that's important too, because a lot of trainings, it's just like, here, you're certified. Here's your piece of paper. And then it's like, go. And what do you do? So we're here before, we're here during, and we're here after. We just started our second round and it's going great. And we're hoping to get more studios where they send, they have their team now of Pilates technicians and they can be available to them. And it is a great stream, another stream of income. And that's important too. You're still in the studio, which is great. You're at your home and now you have another way to, bring income and also just be able to help the industry in general.
I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are, but here in the UK, I mean, in the city I'm in, there's a reformer studio opening every sort of 6, 8 weeks in my city. These people would be really busy. There was probably a time where I'd be interested as a studio owner doing your course, but actually as the studios are getting busier and busier, I'm like, I just want someone to come in and do it and know what they're doing.
Well, that's the thing too. We've had like a lot of people, like we're servicing and just we're in on the East Coast in New York. Like we're not going to Atlanta or California. Like there's tons of opportunity. And we have people that call us like, "Oh, can you come to Florida?" I'm like, "No." Like we can't and we don't have that capacity. And as a studio owner, like at the end of the day, I don't want to go back into my studio and spend 7 hours, doing this. Like it's true. Like I want to be able to pay someone. I want to have them come in and do it.
Even in the opening up of your studio, I mean, it takes days to build the reformers. I have balanced body Allegros and I like the legs on them. And so the legs take quite a long time to put together. And again, I think it is interesting how we've got this boom as an industry, and yet there really is no business around the support and maintenance of these pieces of equipment, which I think is really interesting. It's left to you as the owner, and yet if God forbid you got sued because someone got injured, I'm not sure how we could make sure we had done all the right things.
Yeah. And also, like, that's another thing too that we do. We set up their studio. So we put everything together. We get rid of the cardboard. I mean, that's like a whole other, you don't think until it's like, oh, I have 27,000 pounds of cardboard. We'll move your studio. So if you're moving to another location, if your lease is up and you have to have a bigger space, like we do all of that. The other most current thing that my husband and I actually just did, husband sounds so weird. I just got married in April, is we got a patent and we created, we're calling them sticky feet. And so we're all using these grip mats, underneath to keep the reformer stable. They're gross. Like they collect dust, they collect dirt, they're not attractive to look at. So we actually created these feet that go on the bottom of the reformer so you don't see it. They hold the reformer in place. There's no bunching, there's no grip pieces falling all over your studio. There's no dirt. So like we also created this. So like a lot of studios when we've been going, we've been doing custom grips if they don't have, the balanced body studio reformer. We're in the process now of getting the patent for the Gratz bottom, but we just did a bunch of studios up, a studio up in Albany that we did custom grips for them. And we also have that too. So there's just all this stuff like within the industry that I think, with all these reformer studios, like you said, popping open, we say it's like the upgrade you didn't know your studio needed until now.
Absolutely. So how did you go, Chelsea, from kind of studio owner to have, I mean, like all these ideas and also having the time to think about creating this online course, putting patents through for, I mean, I really like the sound of those feet, by the way, because in jump board classes, those reformers move. If people don't understand how to jump properly, the reformers move.
And they do move. So that's why we came up with this because I have, I'm OCD in my studio and it's like how, I'm cleaning all the time. I'm picking up these like pieces of this grip mat off the floor. And so we got this patent and we created it. And again, we're talking to Balanced Body, possibly working together on that. But it's just, yeah, time. There isn't enough time as far as, anything goes. And I think just for me too, I have the most amazing team.
Well, let's rewind a little bit. Tell me how you first discovered Pilates and got into it.
So like a lot of us, I danced, I was dancing for 22 years and I was just doing the Pilates mat work. I had no idea about the apparatus. I had no idea about any of the equipment. And I moved to LA after college. I graduated from Bard College and there was a little studio down the street. And I walked in and I was like intrigued. And I did everything. Kickboxing, personal trainer, yoga, hiking. And I just was like, okay, it was a 20 pack of privates. I said, I don't care who I take with. I just want to get familiar with the equipment. And within a couple sessions, I was like, okay, like I felt better. I felt taller, like all the things that we all know that, makes Pilates amazing. And then ended up getting certified, moved home, and I started with one reformer. And upstate New York, I'm from the Hudson Valley, and there was like a need. And I started with my one studio, opened a couple years later, certified my sister. My mom, before she passed, worked for me as well. And I've just grown the business, but my team that I have is really great.
How do you get such a great team? Teachers is one bit, but also the support of running the business and all the bits that go into, I think that people don't see. There's a lot to keeping the studios going and thriving and everything running smoothly, including the cleaning. I'm with you. I'm also incredibly OCD about cleaning.
Yeah, I mean, my cleaning people are great. And that's the thing too. There's more to the team than just, your teachers. Like my teachers, I think too, what is it? It's like hire slow, fire fast. Not everybody's meant to be in your studio, and that's totally fine. It's hard. I mean, the first time I fired anyone, I cried. It is hard, but like if they're not meant to be, they're not meant to be. And it's more than your teachers. It's your, who is helping you with your website, who's cleaning the studio, who are you going to for, hey, I have this idea, let me run this by you. There's like I have my group of women that we all like, have, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about this? Or I'm running into this problem. Other studio owners and other women who own businesses too, and just realizing that your team is more than than your trainers, and also the community. Like we have amazing clients that are so smart and have created this community within the studio, and I think that's super important too. And using them, and they're always willing to help. And also collaborating has been huge for me. We do a lot of events now, like we do a Pilates pizza prosecco night. I think just more of that too, and within the community is going to be huge for studio owners, and just being able to collaborate more.
We put prosecco with any event, it sells
Yep.
out. Far more than some of the wellness. Like we'll do a sound healing, we'll get there, but like put a prosecco on, it's sold in minutes. Like people are like, yeah, disco Pilates. Maybe we should have pizza, and I like that. Pilates, pizza, and prosecco's all the P's.
Yeah.
It's such a great idea.
Yeah.
What's important to you when you're looking for those teams, Chelsea? Like, are there qualities in a person that you're looking for? Do you want, I was talking to a studio owner the other day. She said, I've realized actually people who are part of my community already work really well in our studio. Are there things that you're always looking for those people who come into that central services team as such?
I think it takes a while. Like, I think I always do a 3-month trial, and like, let's see how this works. And at the end of the 3 months, I have a meeting with them, and maybe it's going to work. Maybe it's not going to work. And we part ways. And I think that's important too, to realize that not everybody is meant to be on your team. I sit a lot at the studio and I watch and I observe. And how are they with, the clients? How are they with each other? And like, just really like anyone that comes in, like I always tell people, like, you're welcoming them into your home. So it's the same stuff, like, take your shoes off, be nice. What are we doing? Help each other out. And I think that's one of the main things. It's like as soon as something happens, whether someone has passed or, someone is sick, like everybody, like, just like, okay, here, I got it. And if I can't do this, then they make the studio run without me.
A lot of teachers underestimate the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. What are the lessons that you've learned about balancing passion and profitability?
You have to make the time, and you have to be able to go over, under, and around roadblocks. And you cannot get frustrated if this amazing creative day that you had to plan all the things doesn't happen. It's okay. You have to maneuver, and you have to just be flexible. And I think that's part of it. And everything is not going to go your way. Yesterday, again, I'm here, and my toilet in Red Hook is overflowing, and we lost power the other day, and you just have to keep going. And there's not, sometimes it's out of your control, which has been very hard for me as a control freak, to just let it go. And whatever happens, happens. And there's always tomorrow.
What's the geography of the three locations? Are they close to each other? Are they far apart?
So Red Hook was my first studio. My Catskill studio is about like 30 minutes north from there. And then the third studio is actually great. It's small. We do trios and we do privates and semis. And it's in a hotel on the Hudson River. So it's in the James Newbury Hotel. We've been there now for 2 years. And that's about 15 minutes north of the Catskill studio.
And how do you balance sort of those three locations? Do you try and be at different ones at different times?
Yeah, I always try. I still teach a lot. I love it. And I've kind of been now, like, I fill in for my teachers. So if they're away, we all help each other out. But I have 2 big teaching days, and on each of those teaching days, I go to all 3 studios. So I start in Red Hook, then I go to Catskill, and then I end my night at the hotel.
I think it's important, isn't it? I've got 3 studios. I've actually got similar. I always say it's like 2.5 studios, like 2 big studios and 1 smaller private one like you have. And there was a time I think I thought about opening lots of locations and further away. But actually, one of my newer locations is probably only about a 25-minute drive. And I suddenly realized even getting that far, like it takes a bit of effort to kind of figure that out and the logistics of it versus like if it was 3 hours away, how would that work? And I don't know. I think as a studio owner, I do kind of feel like being on the ground is really helpful because, like you said, you're seeing the conversations that your team are having. I think it would be quite a different beast. You'd have to be a bit more corporate and structured about it, would you not? Just wondered how you managed to keep it all running consistently across those locations.
I think the thing for me that's been really important, I've been also really lucky. I was able to not the hotel, but my other 2 locations, I've been able to buy my real estate. So I'm also the landlord there, which is tons of pros and cons, and that's a whole entire another interview about that. But I think for me, the main thing was like, what do I really want? And I had to sit down and yeah, I've thought about 4, 5, 6 studios. But for me to really like zone in, and it was using the square footage that I have and expanding within that square footage and not adding more square footage. And it's not that I'm saying that I will never do that, but for right now, having a presence at all 3 studios, knowing the clients, knowing their names, I want to be there. And the more studios, the more driving, the more all over the place, and the more building. And right now, like that was my choice to just really build within the square footage that I have without adding more real estate and more locations.
So how did you approach that idea of building out more within the space that you've got?
I think it was just more creating other programs. Like, what else can we do to bring in income? We also do like these Pilates parties now. We're doing so many bachelorette parties, which is nice because sometimes they are in studio. Sometimes we go to their Airbnb or to wherever they're, staying for the weekend. And just being able to come up with other creative ways to make income without adding more overhead. And when you really
Yeah.
sit down and do the overhead, it's a lot of numbers.
I think that's the other thing people don't understand, the amount of numbers that go on. Talk to me about your teaching philosophy, Chelsea, because I know that you're passionate about the way you teach. You've mentioned that you're currently running a teacher training program. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
I think right now with the Pilates industry, I think it's just really, really important, with all the reformer studios and all of that. Like, I personally will not hire anyone if they are just certified on mat or just certified on reformer. I really believe it is super important to go through a full comprehensive program. And as far as like bringing a teacher into the studio, it's, the same thing. Our clients range from ages 12 to 93. And if there is like someone coming in that can't get on the reformer, what are you going to do with them? Send the client away? So it's super important for me that everybody is certified on all the apparatus and they can also continue their education, which is going to be huge. I require that as well. And just always learning and being open to, everything. We try to do continuing education in the studio. Every April, for the past couple years, we bring in other educators and everybody comes. We try to bring in the community around us as well. But I think always just continuing to learn. I've been teaching for, my gosh, 19 years. And I think it's just, I'm still learning. And also like too, like I try with my trainers, like, hey, when was the last time you taught horseback? When was the last time you used the chair with a private client? Things like that. Cause we all get not, I don't like to use the word stale, but we all get comfortable. I think sometimes watching a class on Pilates anytime or getting like a new aha moment or any of that. So I think that's just important no matter what training you go through. But for me, I think the full comprehensive programs are necessary and important, and continuing ed is important.
Why do you think it's important to have that level of qualification in your studio? What's the difference that you've seen? Have you tried having reformer or mat instructors in the past? Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have my own thoughts as well. I also like comprehensive instructors. So I'd just love to hear why that's important to you.
So in our area and my studio especially, like we do have an older clientele. And it's super important for me because that's how I started. And a lot of my clients have been with me from the beginning. They've been with me for 16 years. And during that 16 years, they're going through everything, life. So whether it's a hip replacement, a knee replacement, cancer, MS, any of these things that are happening when we age, it's important to know what to do with them and keep them safe. One of our clients had Parkinson's, and by the end, he was 92. We did Cadillac, and that's that's what we could do because he could get on the Cadillac. And that's important to me so that no matter who walks through my door, whether it's, mother daughter, whether someone is 8 months pregnant, whether they are 90, whether they have arthritis, whatever they have going on, that they will feel safe and my trainers will be able to keep them safe, give them a good workout, and be able to use whatever we can in the studio and having all of the apparatus. And I think that's important. What if a client says, "Hey, I've never been on that chair before." "Oh, well, I'm not certified. I can't teach you on that." It doesn't look good. And that's the level, that we've been upholding for 16 years. And I think it's important. And it's important to the industry too.
It is, isn't it? Because this is a system, this is an ethos. This has a lot of depth to it that is almost impossible to get through in a few weekends, not to mention anything shorter than that. And yet that seems to be the way most of the industry is going, is shorter and shorter. And it's not about going through the history or the origins for the sake of it, but also not understanding that the philosophy and I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you where you are, but there's a real push in the UK for more of that dynamic fitness on a reformer style, which is very different to, I think, what you're talking about. And I always think the comprehensively trained instructors, even if they don't go onto the chair or the Cadillac, they understand where even some of the reformer moves come from. And so if someone is struggling, they've got thoughts and ideas from other places that they can bring into what they're giving them, even in a group class.
If you want a sweaty cardio class, like, do your jump board. Bring, so there's always other options that you can do. But a while ago, it was maybe 2 years ago, I interviewed and I'm like, tell me about Pilates. I was like, where did it come from? Tell me about, and she's like, oh, I don't know. I just find things on Instagram and it's like, so there is just this level that I hope studio owners can kind of uphold. And I understand things are always changing. And as a business, like, yes, you always have to be creating, whether it's new programs or adding more classes, but really stick to the foundations and be able to keep your clients safe and be able to teach Pilates. And you don't need to be doing crazy, unsafe things with people.
Have you seen in your 16 years of studio ownership the clients that come changing? Because I feel like 10 years ago when I opened my studio, people mostly came because something hurt and they heard Pilates might help them. Now you still get that, but you also get people saying, well, I hear Pilates, from an aesthetic point of view, this is the kind of body that you get, which is not my ethos as a studio at all. But have you seen that? Like, I feel like now there's still as many rehab people, but there's other people coming as well.
We definitely see that. Like I said, for a while, our clientele, we actually a couple years ago, like it's unfortunate, but we lost a lot of clients because they have been aging out. They've been passing away. And we have had this younger, kind of boost and people coming into our studios where, we have a group that come on Friday and, like, oh, well, CrossFit doesn't feel good and it hurts me, or I'm doing this and I can't do it anymore, but every time I do Pilates, I feel better. So I'm hoping that even the younger generation and that crowd are like really being able, I think people are starting more to listen to their bodies and seeing, what feels good. And people are coming in because I think there is this like boost right now in the social media world and in the Pilates world where it is a younger crowd that are doing Pilates and it's not just like your mom's workout anymore. I think it's a good thing. And that's, what we need to keep our studios running.
Just circling back to your maintenance course, am I right in thinking that's an online course, a lot of that? And how was that process of building an online platform for you?
That's where my team came in and Suzanne and we she did the majority of it. So also knowing your strong points and spreadsheets and technology are not my strong points. So again, I had a lot of help with the online. It is 8 weeks. We also got it approved for 19 credits. So it's available for 19 CECs, which I think is super important. And then, like I said, the 1 hour a week, we do a live Zoom meeting. If you can't make it, it is recorded and you can watch that later on. And during that live meeting, we do like a lot of bonus videos. We go over anything. And then as the course goes, we've had a lot of the students like already start working. One of the students is in California, another couple is in Jersey, New Hampshire, Ohio, so all over. So it's happening. It's just a slow process because again, it's a lot. Like it's a whole day by the time you travel and you go to these studios and you're taking everything apart, you're troubleshooting, you're putting everything together. We just did a studio south of us. There were 6 of us, so 6 technicians, and I mean it's a 12-hour day.
I was going to ask you, like, for anyone who's feeling a bit overwhelmed by the thought of a digital platform, what advice you'd give. But I guess it's to sort of outsource it if you need that support.
Yeah, to create content. And it was a lot in studio too. Like we shot a ton of videos and we're still building it. Like we're still adding and like getting feedback like, "Hey, what worked? What didn't work?" And it's nice cuz you can always change it. Like what worked for you this time, and a couple of the students were like, "Well, I'd really like more of this." So adding, more, taking some away, also redoing some stuff that we didn't like. It wasn't, like, up to par. So we've been able to do that, and just like anything, it's, you live, learn, and you grow.
Have you been tempted to put any of your Pilates content on there as well? Any of the education or CPD? Or do you feel like in person is the way to go with that?
I think in person is the way to go with that. The online is just not. I think for some of it, I think it's fine. I just think for the overall, like, I think it's really important to be in person with a body in real life.
Absolutely. Where do you see the future of studio ownership and education going? You've been doing this for 16 years. Have you got any thoughts of what's needed, where things are going, where the challenges are?
I think it's just gonna be the quality, and I think that's where a lot of these small studios, and large studios, I think just the quality of training. We've been lucky enough, like, we only do Pilates. When I first started, I tried to do, some personal training and TRX and a couple other things, but at the end of the day, that's what we do. And just, I think, adding other programs, whether it be education, and I think continuing education is huge. I personally have done, writing workshops and things like that. I think that's important. And also just the business, like the business coaching and, one-on-one, and just having like people in the industry that you can go to ask for help or ask for, advice. And I think that's where the industry needs to just be able to like have that support.
How do you sort of balance that kind of sustainability in your studio, like being, profitable so you can pay everyone? I feel like that's a piece that's often missed as well. Like there's a lot of studios out there that do not make any money from what I understand from various business coaches out there. Has that been something that you've worked on, the kind of the business of this studio? Because you can be creating amazing experiences, but sometimes the numbers don't quite add up. Have you had that challenge in your studio life?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried things, and if they don't work, it's okay, and then you have to learn to move on. And okay, we made no money with this. We can't do this again, or how do we do this to change it to make it profitable? And I think just that trial and error and not getting frustrated, and just that you have to keep going no matter what happens. And it's okay that if something doesn't work, and it's okay that it's working for another studio and it's not going to work for yours, because every studio is different. And that's what I tell people when, they are going through a teacher training program, when they are doing the equipment maintenance thing. We give you the tools, but we're not going to tell you how to teach, and that's on you. It's the same thing with business ownership. It's this is working for, this studio, this is working for this demographic, and then just really being able to be flexible with all of that and know that what's working for one studio is not going to work for you, and that's okay.
It's a challenge, isn't it? There's a lot of trial and error and testing and learning as a business owner that you're, like you said, figuring things out and saying, this didn't work, this did work, let's do this differently. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, isn't there, to kind of like the little cogs that you're spinning just to see like how we can tweak things to just get it working as best possible.
Yeah, and also being flexible with that and taking advice and taking, from the people that are coming into your studio every day. Like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, "Hey, if we had a new class, what time would you want it? What else do you need?" And sometimes, you take it and you say, "Okay, thank you," and move on. And then other times it might spark that light bulb, like aha moment that makes your life or studio grow and be better.
Is there anything you're excited about for the future, whether it's for you, whether it's something you're seeing in the industry generally?
I think just being able to still be able to be in my space and in my studio and teach, which I think as a studio owner, that has become like almost like my therapy because I am dealing with 10,000 other things and still being able to go into the studio and being able to teach as much as I do, because I think we always kind of get away from that. But being able to have that balance between studio ownership and still being able to be a teacher, I have a balance now of that where I'm not teaching a million hours a week, but I'm happy with the amount of hours that I'm teaching. And then I still have time to create and run the business. That's been really nice in the past couple years for me.
I think that is a huge challenge, though, that I think, again, a lot of teachers who then decide to open up their own studios don't appreciate. Like, it's going to take you away from teaching. And there might be a time where it takes you away a lot. And then it takes actually a lot of work to get the structure in place so that you can go back to teaching. Because I actually had a conversation just today about how teaching is the thing that refills my cup. Like, a million things will be going on. And then you have to turn up and be present and filter out everything. So for the 3, 4, 5, 6 hours you're teaching, you haven't thought about anything else except your clients. And then you get to the end of the 6 hours and you're like, do you know what? All that other stuff now does not feel so overwhelming anymore. I think it's having that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. And being okay with that. And there are some days like where, yeah, I'm teaching 8 hours, and there are some days where I'm teaching 2 hours, no hours, and then dealing with like, oh, yeah, we have to order toilet paper and paper towels.
To end our conversation today, I just like to ask you a few short questions. What was the most influential piece of advice you've been given and by who?
I've had so many amazing women just in my life. I think you really just have to keep going, and it's hard. And it's okay that it's hard. And, being a woman and owning a business, there's days that I'm crying on my kitchen floor. There's days that I'm jumping up and down because things are so excited. And you just have to keep going. And if you don't want to anymore, that's okay too. I have lots of friends who've sold their studios and closed, and that's fine too. But really just listening to your gut.
You talked about the community of other business owners that you're with. There's not enough of women sharing support, I think, actually, because I suppose if you go back ancestrally, like women, yeah, women had a scarcity mentality around this is mine, and actually it's really important. It's partly why I wanted to do this podcast and talk to lots of different people because we all have stuff to share and learn from each other or just create conversations or interesting ideas or agree to disagree on things. But that's, like you said, being a teacher and actually being a studio owner can be quite an isolating role, can't it? You can be on your own a lot sometimes. So what mentors have shaped your life, whether it's the business, personal? Are there any mentors that you feel have really shaped your life?
Yeah. So I actually went through a mentorship program with Alicia Angaro, and that was super important and amazing. And that program actually had me fall in love with my studios again because I was like a young studio owner. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. But also the women that I met through that program and then expanded, like, I think too, we get stuck in this, like I'm in my studio upstate New York and, there's a whole industry. And, going to the conferences was huge for me. Also meeting other people in the industry and getting out of your studio. So that was kind of like the aha moment of, "Oh my gosh, we're all having the same problems," or, "Oh my gosh," but that program really introduced me to a lot of amazing women who I'm still in touch with today.
I love that. If you could go back in time, Chelsea, and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
That it's gonna be okay, and and you will figure it out, and shit happens, and it is out of your control sometimes. And you just have to figure out a way. Stuff is going to happen and just knowing it's going to be okay. And your studio is still going to be here tomorrow and your community and everything else. And just breathe.
And what has been the most profound gift that Pilates has given you, Chelsea?
I think just every day that I walk into my studio, it's just the calm and it just feels right. And I do. I love being there and just really being able to like create and grow and kind of having that safe space.
Absolutely. I think it's not, we've talked about how hard this work can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding and you see people's lives change and it's a lovely world to be part of. Tell me, Chelsea, as we come to the end of our conversation, how can people work with you?
Obviously, all the socials. So we have at Body Be Well Pilates. And then my email is Chelsea at bodybewellpilates.com. And my number is everywhere. It's all over the website. People text me all the time. I am available. Whether you have business questions, studio questions, Pilates questions, want to join one of our programs. I think that's just important that I am here. I'm available all the time. Our website is bodybewellpilates.com, and my personal Instagram is healthyish in a hurry.
Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed chatting to you and getting to know
Yeah.
a little bit more about your studio and your online program. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I'm really grateful that you're here and I'm loving building this community with you all. Make sure you click the follow button so you don't miss an episode. New ones come out every Monday. And if you found today's content helpful, it would mean a lot if you left a 5-star review or even better, shared it with someone you think would enjoy it too. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week.